mostly everybody's looking at the character of Pincus and studying about him and all of these things, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. In this parsha in chapter 26, it talks about the tribes, the numbers of each tribe, and so on. And when you come to chapter 26 in verse 42 is actually what I'm going to be talking about. One tribe. And it says in verse 42 here, you see here, it says, Ele b'nei Dan, lamish pekosam leshucham. These are the sons of Dan, according to their families of Shucham. The Shuchamite family, these are the families of Dan, according to their families. All the Shuchamite families, according to their count, 64,400. And I suggest you guys have your Torah, the Tanakh, the Brit Hadashah. I am going to be going through many different books and sources here. And I hope you guys can keep up because I'm going to do a lot of references. It's going to be fun. Okay? So it says Shucham, he had the Shuchami family, 64,000, a massive number of the tribe. And although Dan only had one son, Shucham, yet he still had 64,000 offspring, a massive number, more than all the other Shoftim. From Bela, one kid came out more than those that had many children. Only one child, it says, in the tribe of Dan, but they had more offspring than the others. One kid came out. And why only one child? Why so many offspring? And what do you mean he had a son, Shucham? Because Dan's son is Kusham. It says here in verse 42, Shucham, but it says elsewhere his name's Husham ben Dan. So what's going on? Okay? I don't want you guys to miss this, so if anyone wants me to slow down or stop, let me know because this is going to be a good study, I promise. So it says there is a story of Husham and what he did to Esau at the end of his life. Okay? And Rashi says Shucham is Hushim. If you look at 2642 in Rashi, I'm in the wrong Rashi here. Rashi, Numbers 26, verse 42. Rashi says in chapter 26, verse 42, L'shucham tu shucham hu hushim. He is Hushim. This is what Rashi says. Shucham is Hushim. Okay? So why does the Torah do this? Why not just call them Hushim? And they're the same letters. Shuchim and Hushim are the same letters. Chas, Ches, Vav, Shin, Mem. Hushim. Shin, Vav, Ches, Mem is Shucham. And the pasuk, the verse states that these are the sons of Dan, but no one else is mentioned. But it says, B'nai Dan. What does B'nai mean? It doesn't mean son of Dan. It says these are the sons of Dan. That he was implying that he had so many offspring. The Torah refers it to the plural. It really should say Ben. It says B'nai. Another reason why in the plural, when Dan is being blessed by Jacob, Yaakov Avinu, what does he say? So now we're going to go to this reference quite a bit in this study. Genesis, Bereshis, okay, chapter 49. And this is the big mystery of all of this. So you might want to have a bookmarker here. In chapter 49, verse 16, this is what it says. It says, Dan Yadin Amo Chechad Shiftei Israel. Dan will gain justice for his people as one, the tribes of Israel. Okay? So the sages say this is referring to fighting, a war. Okay? This is what the sages say. It's about fighting and a war. And this is why Samson was so special. You see, it says in verse 17, it says, Yehi dan nachash al derech shifon ale orach hanoshech ikve sus. It says, Dan will be a snake on the highway, a serpent on the path that bites a horse's heels, so its rider falls backwards. All right? And this is why Rashi refers to this prophecy of Dan as Samson. All Israel will be as one with him, Rashi says, and he will vindicate them all. Yaakov prophesied that this prophecy is about Samson. Okay? This is why Shimshon was so special. He comes from the tribe of Dan, and he's similar to a Nachash. For those that don't know, Nachash means serpent. Okay? Oh, also, if I go into some Hebrew words and somebody doesn't know what I'm saying, also stop me, because I sometimes forget there is some of them just learning here and these things. So we would ambush the Philistines. Samson would ambush the Philistine, come behind them, and take them out. In verse 17, it says, look what it says in verse 17 here. Dan will be a snake on the highway, a serpent on the path that bites the horse's heels, so its rider falls backwards. Remember horse's heels. And then it says, Leshuva secha ki bisi Adonai. For your salvation do I long, Hashem. Hayden, I need you to grab my big sister in the back, please. Also, it says, for your salvation do I wait. What does this mean? Shimshon had a massive potential, and he was a judge. And he almost took out all of Israel's problems, but some of the sages say he failed. So Yaakov alluded to Shimshon's failure. And so Yaakov says everything will be complete with his salvation. This is what Yaakov says, right? And however, says Rashi, that he says about the rider, Yaakov had to backtrack on his words. Yaakov had to backtrack on his words. Yaakov Avinu saw Shimshon and thought Shimshon was the progeny of Dan. He thought he was going to be Hamelech HaMashiach. Yaakov thought Shimshon was going to be the Messiah. Okay? Yaakov foresaw that Shimshon was going to die. Yaakov knew that Shimshon was going to die. Shimshon will not bring the final salvation. So Rashi is telling us something here that fits very well. He's going to be similar to David, who comes from Yehuda. And Yaakov thought Shimshon could have been Melech HaMashiach. So Rashi is saying Yaakov thought Melech HaMashiach could come from the tribe of Dan. That HaMashiach would come from Dan. But he saw that it won't be, so we pulled back. Yaakov doesn't make mistakes, though, so why would it even mention this if Yaakov thought this, and only to say, never mind? First he said, you're going to be like David. And then he says, no, he changes his mind. So why mention this in the Torah? if Yaakov thought so, that means there must be some kind of truth, that the original belief has more than just something here. There's a little bit of truth here, that we can't just completely throw away what Yaakov thought or these things. Now, the Baal HaTurim points out that Dan has a son, and his name is Cushim. In Genesis 46, verse 23. Genesis 46, 23. Let me go here to the Torah, Genesis. Let me open it up for a minute. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of references here. Look what it says. It says, Uvne Dan Hushim. Dan's son is Hushim. It says it right there in the Torah. But in our parsha, it says Shucham. And you find it in another place where we're coming up to a parsha where it talks about God and Reuben request to Moshe to let us stay in Yarden, in the Jordan. They're getting ready to go into Israel in Numbers 32:5. Numbers 32:5. It says, they said, if we have found favor in your eyes, let this land be given to your servants as a heritage. Do not bring us across the Jordan. Okay? And then we come to chapter 32, verse 16, and it says something here interesting in the Hebrew as well. Okay? It says, Vayikishu elav ve'amru hid ros zon niv ne lemiknenu po va'arim letafnu. And it says, they approached him and said, pens for the flock shall we build here for our livestock and for our cities, for our children. They continue, and actually it says, where is it again? They say that Moshe allows this request. He allows this request, and let me see here in Rashi for a minute. Where are my numbers? Numbers 32. Numbers 32 in verse 17. This is what it says in Numbers 32, verse 17. It's interesting what the Hebrew says. You won't see it in English, but it says, Vanachnu nechaletz Hushim. You see that? Hushim's name. It says, we shall arm ourselves swiftly before the children of Israel. Reuben and Gad say, if you allow us to do this, we're going to go in first. We're going to come in like lightning. We're going to go with speed quickly. We're going to come in a hurry. And it says, Hushim. And Rashi says, this means we shall arm ourselves swiftly. And then he says the word chash from Hushim, chash baz. The word Hushim is like chash, two letters, ket and shin, which means quick to pillage, swift to loot. It means, and like the word yahisha, it means let him hurry, let him hasten. It means to come quickly, okay? And the word is Hushim, all right? And so what does this mean? Rashi says it means fast. Baal HaTurim explains this is why the name Hushim is the word chash. It means to come quickly. This is a remez to the Mashiach. I don't know if you've heard in the New Testament, it says, behold, I come quickly. Right? And another connection to the word Shabbos, Shabbat, something interesting about the word Shabbat. Sabbath is spelled Shin Bet Tav. Okay? Shin equals 300, Tav equals 400, and Bet equals 2. You have the gematria, which equals out the Sabbath is 702. If you take Hashem's name, Yud K Vav K, which equals 26, divide that by Sabbath, 702, you find Hashem's name 27 times in the word Sabbath. Okay? And if you do this twice, 27 twice, 27 plus 27, if you take Shabbos twice, you have Hashem's name 54 times. 27 plus 27 is 54, right? I hope everybody's with me. You know what the sages say in the Talmud, in Chazal? They say, if Israel keeps Shabbos twice perfectly, Mashiach will come. Okay? Where are they getting this? Is this just made up somewhere in the Talmud? They're actually getting it from Hushim. It's a real source in the Torah. The sons, B'nai, this is what the Baal term says. Why does it say B'nai, plural, twice? The sons of Dan? Guess what the gematria of Dan is? Daled Nun, 54. 54, amazing. This is hinting to Mashiach coming, right? So 2 times Shabbos, which is 54, Hushim, Ches, Shin, Yud, Mem. These are the letters of Mashiach. When you rearrange the letters of Hushim, it spells Mashiach. Write that down. Okay, it says 2 Shabbats, which is Dan, 54. Then you have Mashiach. This is where the sages get the concept in the Talmud. If we keep 2 Shabbats properly, Mashiach will come. Okay? This is where the sages get this concept. Also, the Baal HaTurim, another quote I found. This is awesome. I've been studying about Dan for a long time, but I found some other sources that just built on this. It was amazing. In Genesis 49, verse 16, it says, Dan will judge his people like the unique one of the scepter bearers of Israel. Okay? So the Baal HaTurim says, the unique one of the scepter bearers of Israel, he says this means like David. And he says, since Dan, you know, I'll just even show you, just so you guys can see for yourselves. Yeah, it says here, like the unique one of the scepter bearer of Israel. Then it says, this means like David. Since Dan is compared to David, the initial letters of these verses, it says Dan, sorry, the camera, but I'll explain it anyway. Dan is compared to David. The initial letters of these verses, Daled and Nun, the Daled. So it says here that in verse 18, Dan will be a serpent on the highway, a viper on the path that bites a horse's heel, so the rider will fall backwards. For your salvation, it says, Leshua Techa Tivisi Adonai. For your salvation do I long, Hashem. And the first letter of that is a lamed, Leshua Techa, and Baal HaTurim says salvation and of Dan, Daled Nun, which means Leshua Techa, the lamed equals 30, okay? And the Daled of Dan equals 4. The Shuatecha of Dan, the salvation of Dan, the Lamed and the Daled equal 34. The gematria 34 is that of K David, which is the gematria like David. You put a kaf equals 20, Daled equals 4, 24, plus a vav is 6, is 30 plus a dalet is 34. So the Baal HaTurim connects Dan with David, because Yeshua Techa, salvation is going to come from Dan. The Lamed and the Dalet equal 34, which is the same gematria as the word like David. I don't know if I confused everyone there. I hope not. So this is what the Baal HaTurim also puts together, that he's connected with David. Dan, the tribe of Dan, is connected with David somehow. David is where Mashiach comes from. Now, in the Talmud, the Gemara, it's a famous story that I quoted about Hushim and Esau is in Sota. Okay, the Gemara Sota 13. And there's a famous story of Esau having an argument with the tribes of Israel about Jacob, his father, being buried. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit of it and explain what's going on here. So David dies. There's a burial spot left in the cave of Machpelah. And Esau is trying to stop it, because Esau believes his burial place should be there. All right? So it says there was a great and imposing eulogy. And a Baraisa taught the eulogies and mourning were so intense they included even horses and donkeys. Once the burial party reached the cave of Machpelah, Esau, Jacob's brother, came and put up obstacles to the burial in the cave. And this cave is in Mamre, in the city of Four, which is Hebron. It is called the city of Four because this burial cave has place for only 4 pairs of people. The Gemara corroborates Esau's statement. Ar Yitzhak said, the city of Four is called by this name because there were 4 couples buried there in the cave of Machpelah. Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava, all right, Abraham and Sarah, Yitzhak and Rebekah, and Yaakov and Leah. The Gemara returns to Esau's argument. There were only 2 spaces left after the last generation. He buried Leah in the space that was rightfully his. Therefore, the 1 space remaining is mine, and you may not bury Yaakov there. This is Esau's argument to the tribes. They replied to him, you sold it. You relinquished your right to be buried here when you sold the right of the firstborn to Yaakov, our father, for a pot of lentils. And Esau said to them, granted, I sold the extra portion that I would have received as a firstborn son, the Bekor, but when did I ever sell the standard portion I am to receive as a son? Thus, our portions should be equal. He gets 1 burial place, and I get 1 burial place. They said to him, yes, you did sell your standard portion in the cave of Machpelah, for Yaakov told us so on his deathbed. The Gemara continues, and it says, Dixiv, as it is written, behold, I'm about to die in my grave, which I have acquired, Harisi, for myself, in the land of Canaan. There you were to bury me. Now, you can read about that in Genesis 50, verse 5. And it says, as it is written, behold, and it continues, and Ar Yochanan said, in the name of Ar Shimon ben Yehud Sadak. It says, the word kira in this verse means none other than selling. Kira, okay? And it says, because in the cities of the sea, the cities abroad, they would be selling by the term kira. So they're just making a point of what Jacob said in the Hebrew there. The Gemara returns to Esau's argument. He said to them, Avuli igarta, if Yaakov bought it from me, give me the letter of sale. Show me proof. They replied to him, the letter of sale is in the land of Egypt. Now who could go and fetch it? And it says Naphtali should go, because he's swift as a hind. That's quoting also one of the blessings in Bereshit, right? As it is written, Naphtali is a hind let loose. who delivers beautiful sayings, Imre Shafar. It says, our Abahu said, do not pronounce this as Imri Shafar, beautiful sayings, Ela Imri Sefer, but rather Imre Sefer. What is a Sefer? The statements of the book. So in the word, let loose, beautiful sayings, Shafer can be Sefer. Sefer, the word book. Naphtali is the one who will deliver the document containing the legal statements. It's hidden here in the Hebrew. The Gemara continues the narrative. Hushim, here comes Hushim, the son of Dan, and was there at this confrontation. However, he was hard of hearing, so he did not hear what was happening. We're going to talk about that hearing later. He was deaf. Okay? And Hushim said to them, what is this? And they told him, this one, Esau, is blocking us from proceeding with the burial until Naphtali comes back from the land of Egypt with proof of ownership in the cave. And Hushim said to them, and until Naphtali comes back from the land of Egypt, my grandfather will be lying here in disgrace. And so he hit him on his head, killing him with a staff. Hushim knocked off Esau's head, beheaded him with a staff. And Esau's eyes popped out and fell on Yaakov's feet. And it says, and Yaakov opened his eyes and smiled. And we're going to get into these metaphors later on. It says the righteous one. It says the righteous one will rejoice. Yitzmach Zadik ki chaza nakam. The righteous one will rejoice when he sees the vengeance. This is quoted in the Psalms 58:11. And don't forget that verse too, because we're going to come back there. But that is the story, most of the story of Hushim in the Gemara about Esau. Okay? And Psalms 58 says he will rejoice when there's Guel, when there's redemption. Yismach means to be happy. There will be joy. Yismach. He will be happy. He will rejoice. You rearrange the letters of Yismach. What does it spell? Mashiach. The Zaddik is happy when Mashiach comes. So who made Yaakov happy? This is really a remez to the end of days. Hushim, Ches Shin Yud Mem, actually leaves out one letter, a Vav. Why without the Vav? Because when you rearrange these letters, it spells Yismach. Hushim's name spells Yismach, joy, and Mashiach. Okay? What version? The Hebrew version, I got the JPS out, Rick. But in the Hebrew, it should all say Yismach. It should say something about happy or joy or rejoicing.
What verse in Psalm 58? That's
verse 11, sorry. Okay, and we're talking about joy. And the Brit Chadashah also says something about joy. In the New Testament, Yeshua said in chapter 15, verse 11, as we'll go one verse before that, if you keep my mitzvot, you will stay in my love, as I have kept the mitzvot of my Father and have stayed in his love. And then it says in verse 11, Es ele debarti elechem ba'avur tishchon simchati. Simcha. He says, I have spoken these things so that my joy will dwell with you, and your yisma, your joy will be shalem, complete. Yeshua is alluding to all of this, Mashiach. And then it says, in David HaMelech, King David's rise to power, Dan is in the mix. This is what the sage is saying, that Dan is somehow connected to the redemption and the bringing in of Mashiach. This is the mystery that everyone's trying to figure out. Why is Dan left out in the tribes in Revelation? Okay? And this is a great secret. This is amazing stuff here. And now we're going to come to Shmuel Base, 2 Samuel. You guys can turn there if you like or not, but this is actually pretty awesome. There's awesome stuff here in 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel. Chapter 20. Sorry, my bad. Chapter 20. This stuff I actually literally learned last night. I was freaking mind blown. Mind blowing. I hope you guys are enjoying this so far.
Oh, it's great.
Chapter 20. So in this chapter, David Amelech is rising to power, and it says Sheva ben Bichri, okay, when you read through this chapter, yeah, it says even, it mentions him in the first verse, Sheba, son of Bichri, a Benjaminite, he rebelled, and Yoav, who was a general who led in the effort, drove in this uprising. The end of this story, so I'm not going to go through all these verses, but this is where I'm just showing you the references. In this story, the Navi tells us the important people who surrounded David, who they were. Okay? And who were they? There was Yoav, Joab in English, who was in charge of the army. And then we have, see at the end here, Benaiah, son of Yehoda, was commander. Adoram, so I'm reading near the end of this chapter in verse 23 and on. Adoram was a tax collector, and Achilud was the machzir. He recorded reports, and it says Sheva was the scribe. Okay, and then you have a mention of Ira Ha'iri, or Ira the Jarite in English. This person probably doesn't get much attention to at all in a lot of studies. But Ira Ha'iri was a Cohen. It says he served David as a priest. But we also see right above that, Zadok and Avithar were also Cohen. And they were the Kohanim. But so was Ira. Why does it even mention Ira? Zadok and Avithar were the head Kohanim. But it mentions that Ira is David's personal Cohen. It makes that statement. He served David personally. Okay? Gemara Eruvin says, Rashi says in the Gemara that he was David's personal Rebbe, his personal rabbi. Okay? Also, Masechet Gittin says he was his rabbi as well. All right? That was mind-blowing. I didn't even know that. And it says, as long as Ira was alive, the sages say that David did not reveal his true greatness in Torah. When he died, though, David said, now I can talk. As long as Ira was alive, the sages say David would sit on cushions. But when Ira died, he sat on the floor because his Rebbe was no longer there. The Zohar says about Ira, not only was he his Rebbe, but also is the one who David had to thank for all his military strategies when he went to war. Okay? That Ira also advised David on the military strategies. And the Zohar says, I'll prove it to you. Okay? So 2 Samuel chapter 8 talks about the battles that David had. And when he wanted to conquer Zobah, he defeated the Melech, the king. And it says he captured 1,700 horsemen, 20,000 infantrymen. And what did he do? Well, the Torah says a king cannot have too many horses. Okay? He conquered so many riders and chariots, but he conquered many horses. Well, it says that he's not allowed to have so many horses. So what did he do? David took all of the horses and cut their heels. He cut their heels. I don't know if you guys remember me reading Genesis 49 about Dan cutting heels. So he cut all the horses' heels, and now the horses are useless. He could not use them. He could not have them. Okay? And the one that taught David to strike the heel of the horse was none other than Ira. Ira told him to do this. How to disempower the enemy. And where did he learn this? Guess who Ira was from? The tribe of Dan. Ira was from the tribe of Dan. All right? They know about the Ekev, the heel. Dan is a master of war. Now we learn about Pinchas, who killed Cosbi and Zimri and goes after Midian in that battle, and Balaam shows up. And he's a problem. And the Zohar says when Balaam saw Pinchas was coming to kill him, he used magic to fly in the air. Believe it or not, and people say this is absurd, but if you go look at the War of Kings that Abraham had with 4 kings, just find out what those names mean in Hebrew. You'll find that one means flying with wings. And it's all over in the Hebrew, so don't call me some kind of occultist or something. But the Zohar says this, and you can take it literally or not. We don't have to. So Pinchas says, ask his warriors, is there anyone who knows how to pursue him? So Zillah took a special sword which had the image of a snake on both sides and killed him. And he was from Dan, who killed Balaam. Another one from Dan. Numbers 31:8. This is from Numbers 31:8. You can find the death of Balaam. I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check that because I don't want to give you guys wrong information. (31:8). Yeah, they killed the kings of Midian along with the slain ones. Avi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, Reba. All those names have big meanings in them as well. The 5 kings of Midian and Balaam, son of Beor, they slew with the sword. Just says they slew with the sword. Right? But the Zohar says it was Zillah from the tribe of Dan. Avi means Abba, it means covet, evil, desire, selfish. Zur means rock. And Hur means whole. Midian means strife. Reba means four-sided. Okay, so there's a lot of meaning in all of these names. And it says Ira and Shimshon. So what does Genesis 49:16 really talking about? This is what the sages are alluding to in Bereshit 49, verse 16 here. Like I said, we're going to keep going back here to figure out this mystery. Verse 49. 16. It says, Dan will gain justice for his people as one, the tribes of Israel. Rashi also explains the meaning of one. And he even says that this is like the unique one among the tribes. He is David, who came from the tribe of Judah. Rashi says this crazy statement. He says, Chad Shipte Israel, that the tribe of Dan is the tribe is one, the unique one among the tribes. He is David, who came from the tribe of Judah. But it's talking about Dan, but Rashi associating the tribe of Judah with Dan. Okay, this is why Baal HaTurim says that Dan is like David. All right, and then it says in there that 49:16 that Dan will be 17. Dan will be a snake, a nakash on the highway, on the derech, a nakash on the path that bites a horse's heels, so its riders fall backwards. And they say, the sages are really alluding that this is all of these people mentioned in Dan. Zelia, who took out Balaam, Ira, who helped David, Shimshon, they all have to do with David, the Mashiach, the tribe of Dan, Zariah, and Salya. He helps. So the Shnei Luchot, one second, sorry, got everything falling over here, moving books around. My bad. Shnei Luchot has an amazing commentary as well about Kushim. Okay, it says the son of Dan is given Shucham in Parsha Vayigash, and he quotes Genesis 46:23, what I pointed out, and about the Mashiach. He says one of the descendants of Dan will conduct a great battle that precedes the coming of Mashiach. And he says, Zalia, a descendant of Dan, when the ladder flew, what I talked about with the Zohar, is going to pursue Balaam. And this is also alluded to in 2 Samuel 8:4. David hamstrung all the horses of his adversary. Okay? And it says the words in this verse are the same verse that refers to someone called Shalya from the tribe of Dan, who will assist Mashiach ben Yosef in the war that precedes the coming of Mashiach. This person from the tribe of Dan is going to help bring in the quick redemption of Mashiach ben Yosef. This is what Shnei Luchot says. Mind-blowing. And this is what all about Dan's role in bringing about Mashiach. The connection. Now David's father is Yishai. Back to Boaz, back to Yehuda, who's David. And the sages ask, who is David's mother? I forgot to pull up the Talmud off the shelf, but it's quoted in Baba Batra 91. There's different views of who David's mother is. There's a big machloket. There's some secrecy and mystical elements to David's mother. But Baba Batra says it's Nitzevet, the daughter of Adel. But there's no information on her, though. There's really nothing about her. It's secret. And guess who the sages say David's mother is from? The tribe of Dan. The tribe of Dan. Amazing. The Rami Mepano says that's actually why Kushim ben Dan, Ches, Shin, Yud, Mem leaves out the Vav. Why? To allude to the fact that from Dan came out Mashiach of Dan. Yehuda. Guess what? In Bereshis, it calls David a lion cub. Right? In Devarim, Moshe calls Dan a lion cub. Devarim 33:22. What's going on? The rabbis say, what's going on with Moshe calling Dan a lion cub? He's a Nachash. Did he get confused? Did he lose his memory? Why is he referring to Dan as a lion? He's the Nachash. Yaakov said he's the Nachash. Deuteronomy 33, verse 22. It says, Ul Dan Amar Dan Gur Area Arye Zachin Ye Zanek Min Habashan. Of Dan, he said, Dan is a lion cub leaping forth from the Bashan. Why is he called a lion cub here? He's always referred to as the Nachash, the serpent. We thought Judah was a lion cub. The Melech. What's Dan got to do with the lion? He is a Nachash. Moshe is confused. The Rami Mapano says Dan plays a massive role in the bringing of the Mashiach. The word lion, Aryeh, twice is mentioned. The Yalkut Ruveni says there's two lions, two RAs. As we said, Yaakov says it and Moshe says it. The numerical value of lion, Aryeh, is 216. Plus 216 equals 432. What's so special about 432? These two lions bring Mashiach. Where is the first Geula in Torah? Mitzrayim. Moshe comes to the burning bush. This is going to be amazing as well. Exodus chapter 3. Shemot Gimel. You go to Exodus chapter 3, verse 2. It says here, Vayira Malach Adonai Elav Be'labas Eish Mituch Hasaneh. It says Eish. It says the angel of the burning bush. Oh, and then it says, Vayira Malach Adonai Elav Be'labas Eish. Okay, the angel of Hashem appeared to him in a blaze of fire from amid the bush. He saw, behold, the bush was burning in the fire, but the bush was not consumed. It says labas H. That means flaming fire. If we take Aryeh twice equals 432, Belabas H, the word labas, flame, equals 432. Okay? What's this got to do with this connection? Two lions. The Aish is how Mashiach comes with fire. He has to get rid of Esau. How does he get rid of Esau? If you go to Obadiah 1:18. 29. Who is Esau? Well, it's well known in Christianity that it's known in Judaism that Esau is Rome, Christianity. And it says in verse 18, the house of Yaakov shall be fire, Aish, and the house of Joseph flame, the flame, and the house of Esau will be straw, and they shall burn it and devour it, and no survivor shall be left in the house of Esau. Esau is going to be destroyed through fire, through a flame, which Mashiach brings to lions. It says that saviors will ascend or descend on Mount Seir, doesn't it? In Obadiah.
Mount Zion.
Mount Zion, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On Esau's mountain, okay?
Yes.
It says saviors. Why saviors? Well, there's different opinions on this. But Mashiachs, Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David.
Quick question, Joseph.
Yes, sir.
The house of Esau will be a straw. The house of Jacob will be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame. Could the house of Joseph be alluding to the 10 tribes, the 10 lost tribes? Remember how they say that from Ephraim comes the 10 tribes, which is from Joseph.
Right.
So I'm just curious if it's referring to that. Could it be alluding to that?
I was going to go to a Talmudic source, but I don't see why not. There's different opinions. I'm not going to exactly say what it is because I don't have the material in front of me, but I don't disagree with that. All right, I don't disagree with that, but I don't want to say anything wrong, so we'll just leave it at that. Okay, I'm just trying to be fair, not to be rude, Rick. I just don't want to say a wrong interpretation.
No, I get you, dude. I'm that's why I posted as a question. You.
Okay, yeah.
You know.
Right. There's a lot of meaning to all of that, and so yeah. So what we see is Obadiah 1:18. The fire will consume the straw. The house of Yaakov to be ace. We have to have labas, a flaming fire. I mean, Yeshua says before the world was mikvad in water, but it will be mikvad in fire, right? And also, it says the two lions are Yehuda and Dan. Why Dan? Why not someone else? Why does it have to be Dan? So the sages kind of talk about this. Well, Dan means din, judgment. How was Dan born? Well, if we go to Bereshit chapter 30, verse 1 and 2. 1 to 6. We see the birth of Dan. It says Rachel saw that she had not borne children to Yaakov. So Rachel became envious of her sister. She said to Yaakov, give me children, otherwise I'm dead. This is going to be so amazing. And Yaakov's anger flared up at Rachel. And he said, am I instead of God who withheld from you the fruit of womb? She said, here is my maid Bilhah, consort with her, and she may bear upon my knees, and I too may be built up through her. So she gave Bilhah her maidservant as a wife, and Yaakov consorted with her. Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. And then Rachel said, God has judged me. Judged. He also had heard my voice and has given me a son. Therefore she called his name Dan. Okay? Her first offspring. This is her very first offspring. Now she can have children. When did Hashem say she couldn't have kids? Yaakov says, am I the one that stopped you from having kids? But where did God stop her from having kids? And this is all alluded to the Garden of Eden, Gan Eden, where Chava, Eve, sinned, and Hashem said, your birth is going to be hard now. And he actually is referring to all the matriarchs. All the matriarchs couldn't have children. They had a very hard time having children, didn't they? They all had to have miracle births. Miracles had to come through them. So this is alluding to Gan Eden. But now she has Dan. She was doing, the sages say, she was doing tikkun for the chet, for the sin that Hashem, and she said, Hashem judged me favorably. Dan is a tikkun of the Eitz Hadas, the repair, a rectification from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Dan has multiple children, it says in our parsha. But then they say, well, isn't it one? Is it one or is it multiple? Which one is it? He had 64,000 more. But this was the tikkun, that it's filled with blessings. When she had Dan, she brought forth the Nachash, who rectified what the Nachash did in the garden and made the women have a terrible fate of giving birth. Okay? And then Rachel did was the tikkun of Chava, of Eve, in the Garden of Eden. And Eve, Adam, there was 3 of them in the garden. Chava, Eve, Adam, and the Nachash. They all need certain elements of rectification. The Nachash also needs tikkun. They all serve Hashem. And for again, the Nachash is the serpent. Now, Dan is the Nachash fixing his ways. Dan is actually doing tikkun for the serpent in the garden. So the Nachash was told, you're going to crawl on the ground. You're going to strike at the horse's heels, and people are going to hate you, and you're going to hate them. And they're going to crush you on your head, and you're going to bite them. So Dan has to fix this with his midos. He is the one that's going to take all the bad of the Nachash and use it for good. Dan is constantly being compared to the Nachash, the serpent. Shimshon, Samson was the Nachash. He does so much good. And Yaakov says he could be the one. He's doing so much good. He almost thought Shimshon could be Mashiach. Shimshon did not bring complete, full redemption, though. So Yaakov says, I thought he could do it, but he didn't. Masechet Sota tells us that where Shimshon went wrong, by going after his eyes. Delilah was good in his eyes, the Gemara says, but not in Hashem's eyes. His eyes misled him. Who was the one who took the Nachash on the wrong road? Rashi says, why did the Nachash get involved with Adam and Eve? The same thing that misled Samson is the same thing that misled the Nachash. The Nachash saw Chava, the Nachash saw Eve, and said, I want her to myself. She is good in my eyes. It's funny because it says Eve saw that she was good in her eyes, that she saw and it was good in her eyes. It is the same reason Shimshon couldn't bring complete redemption. He didn't do tikkun for his eyes. Shimshon is the Nachash. He went after his eyes. He made a good effort. Dan is trying to do better. All his episodes relate to the Nachash. He's trying to lift up the Nachash. He's trying to rectify what the Nachash did that was so wrong. The Nachash has Avodah Zorah. He's associated with Avodah Zarah. Dan's own birth was contained with Avodah Zarah. A small portion of denying Hashem, the sages say. Why? Because Rachel turns to Yaakov and says, why are you stopping this? And Yaakov gets angry and says, you're substituting me for Hashem. Why are you yelling at me? I'm not stopping you from giving birth. And the sages say that she was looking at him like God. And Yaakov is saying, you're replacing me with God. So in Dan's very conception, there was a small denial of Hashem, Avodah Zarah, attraction to the Avodah Zarah that is the Nachash. The Nachash is associated with Avodah Zarah. Dan has to fix the Nachash. Who is the Nachash? Dan is the good side of the Nachash. The Nachash has 2 sides.
Didn't Rachel hide her father's images, images under her in the horse?
You're right, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Avodah Zarah. Yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Baruch Hashem. And we're going to see how the Avodah Zarah is even tied with Mashiach and all of these things. This is all, who knew you could get so much from one man named Dan who's hardly ever mentioned. All right. And then it says, the Nachash has a good side and a bad side. Chazal says the bad side, it comes from Esau. the raw of the Nachash. Thorns and thistles will grow from you, which is connected also to Amalek. Who is the one who has to fight Esau? Dan has to fight Esau within him. Within him. He has to overcome Esau when the Nachash was cursed. He has to take care of Esau, the bad side, when the Nachash was cursed. How was he cursed? Bereshit 3:15 talks about, you're going to read that, you read in Bereshit 3:15, let's just go there. I talked about this the other week, and now I'm coming with more of a different perspective on it. It says, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and her offspring. He will crush your head, and you will bite his heel. You're going to bite his heel. We have to crush the Nachash to get rid of it. At the end of Yaakov's days, how does Esau meet his end? Esau says, I am not telling you to bury Yaakov. He says, I don't want you to bury Yaakov. I want you to bury, this is my spot. And Hushim, Ben Dan, Hushim, the son of Dan, the good side of the Nachash, he takes his stick, knocks his head off. He will crush your head. This is what Hushim did. Crushed his head. Genesis 3:15. You're done. This is what the sages are alluding to in the Gemara. Dan is the good side. He kills the bad side and knocks off his head. Esau's eyes pop out. The Nachash's mistake was his eyes. This is why it says Esau's eyes popped out. Yaakov, on the other hand, opened his eyes and smiles. Why is Hushim deaf? He's deaf too. One son. Why? What was the Nachash's mistake? His ability was his mouth. He can attract you with his mouth. That is what he's doing with Yaakov's son. Esau is sitting there disputing with the tribes with his mouth. And they're getting messed up with the Lashon Hara, the deception. Esau says, no, he was fighting with them. You can't talk with the Nachash, the sages say. You can't reason with the Nachash. Dan never listened. He was hard of hearing. He can't hear the Lashon Hara. He has to be deaf. Kazam Cypher says Mashiach has to be the Nachash. The Messiah has to be the serpent. Why? Mashiach equals Gematria 358. So does the Nachash equal 358. The Nachash of Dan has to bring Mashiach of Esau. In the Shemoni Ezra. Where is my Siddur? In the Shemoni Ezra, we read 3 times a day. Okay. Let me just go here real quick.
Bereshit 3 steps out.
It talks about a prayer in the Shemoni Ezra, the Davidic reign. Okay? And it says, it's Samik David Abdecha Meirah, Tatzmiach V'Chernot Rum B'Shubasecha. Ki L'Shubasecha Chavinu Kol Hayom Baruch Atzah Adonai Matzmiach Haren Yeshua. The offspring of your servant David, may you speedily cause to flourish and raise his glory through your salvation, for we hope for your salvation all day long. Where are they getting these words from? We hope for your salvation all day long. The Etzamek David, that you sprout. Blessed are you, Adonai, who causes the glory of his salvation to flourish. Where do these words come from? I'll give you a hint. Genesis 49, what we just read. It says that this we bring forth, we wait for your salvation all day long. But this wasn't a pasuk, it wasn't a verse from David.
Shoot.
That verse that we just recited, even though we're saying it's about David, it's actually from Dan in Genesis 49. It's quoting about Dan, the blessing to Dan. 49, verse 16, 17, 18, we say, Yeshua Visi Adonai. For your salvation do I long, O Hashem. We hope for your salvation all day long. Why is it associated with Dan? We recite it 3 times a day. Dan represents the failure of Dan. He has got to come quickly. If Dan is involved, the Mashiach will come quickly. David had fair eyes. This is all the secret of Dan. But David, it says he had beautiful eyes. Interesting. Why does it mention he has beautiful eyes? It says he had red hair, ruddy. In Hebrew, Admoni, the same description of Esau. David looked like Esau, but the sages say that even Shmuel was confused by this. He looks like Esau, but he had beautiful eyes. His eyes were fair. It means that he was kosher within. His eyes, he had the right judgment. He was kosher, even though he looked like Esau, he was kosher. It was almost like he was rectifying the right side of the Nachash. Also, someone else is associated with Esau, Mashiach. Yeshua refers to the Son of Man being on the pole in the wilderness, the Nachash. And Ovadia in the Talmud
The Nakash.
talks about Ovadia in the Talmud, Obadiah. Okay. And if I remember where it is, 38. Where are you?
Yeah, I just realized something when you mentioned the word Ekev, the heel. I went back to Genesis 3:15. That chapter starts off with the Nakash. And when you get down to the part where Hashem curses the Nakash, you see the word Ekev, bruise the heel.
Exactly.
So there you have more elucidation on this of Mashiach and Nakash.
Exactly. Okay, either way, I don't need to, forgot to open this one up. Anyway, it says of Ovadia that why is it about Obadiah? Why is Obadiah, what is he talking about? He's talking about the destruction of Rome, the destruction of Esau. Why is Obadiah talking about it? Ovadia is the only prophet that's a convert.
That's right, he was a proselyte.
Who comes from Rome. So the Talmud says that one has to come from within Rome to bring it down. Like it has a metaphor of like an axe swinging in the tree. The one in the middle of the forest is the one who takes it down. And this is what Shimshon did. He was in the Sitra Achra, in the outer forces. He was with the nations, but he did bring a portion of redemption through his death and saved Israel. And so Mashiach also has to go into the outer forces, into Avodah Zorah. He has to go into idol worship in order to bring it down. And Mashiach is also compared to as the Nakash, the snake.
That's a verse in Revelation referring to Babylon, the mother of all harlots. Which that verse will be a remez for Obadiah.
Yeah, for sure. So Mashiach has to come quickly. And they say that Dan is going to hasten it.
What if Trump is a descendant of Dan?
Oh,
I mean, the sages say he's compared to Esau.
Yeah, I'm serious.
Dan, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it's interesting.
So yeah, that is the story of Dan.
That is,
Brad, you can stop recording there. But if you guys want to have questions and stuff and all of what I said, I hope you enjoyed the study.
Oh, I mean, that's I like
It
it.
was,
Deep.
it was really, really awesome, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, I actually spent about, I don't know, a few hours gaining all these sources, hour upon hour. And I knew a bit about Dan, but what I learned about Samuel, the prophets, and these kind of things, some amazing stuff. Absolutely mind-blowing in my eyes. I never knew a lot of this stuff. Thank you, Angela.